the Steve Jobs coin, the MacBook Neo, a wide-ranging hack, and Digg is back. Again. This is MacVoices. MacVoices is supported by Macstock Connference and Ecamm Creator Camp on July 9th through the 12th in Crystal Lake, Illinois. Join me, members of the MacVoices live panel, and many of our viewers and listeners for a weekend of technology-based information and camaraderie. Sign up at macstockconference.com and use the code MacVoices to save $50 off your ticket. See you there. We were talking about this pre-show a little bit, that the commemorative U.S. Mint Steve Jobs coin sold out in just 11 minutes. Did this surprise anybody?
No.
Okay, I didn't think so.
I was unhappy I didn't see it quick enough to go get in that 11 minutes, but there'll be more.
Yeah. Anybody here? I think Cletus in the chat room said he picked some up on eBay for a bit of a premium. Yeah, for a bit of a premium. But anybody else here? No, nobody partook.
No, couldn't.
Okay. Well, couldn't, but did you want to partake? Maybe is a better question.
Did by that much.
Mark asked me to move this article up in the list. What's coming over the hill? It's a MacBook Neo. Mark, why did you find this compelling?
I found it compelling because I've heard a lot on various podcasts, and I've read a lot of stuff in the blogosphere where everyone was saying that, Apple's now going to have to start paying for processors because they're going to be having to buy more. And, they're somehow thinking that because maybe they were bin processors and they have 5 instead of 6 functional GPU cores, that Apple wasn't paying for it. Well, if you dig in, the way a lot of semiconductor manufacturing is done is basically, you pay TSMC, for a wafer. And you contract for a certain number of thousands of wafers a month. And basically, the wafer is a 300 millimeter, which is a 12-inch diameter piece of silicon that they make your chip design on it. And not all chips work, right? So there's a yield. So there's some sort of fallout. And what Apple, to the best that is reported publicly, and I think to Jeff's point that Ming-Chi Kuo, doesn't seem to have, good supply chain contacts. His predictions are not very good, but his contacts seem to be accurate. And the reports were that, especially for Apple starting to move to their 3 nanometer process, that they were paying on a per yielded chip basis, meaning if that wafer, yields 1 chip, Apple would only pay them for the 1 chip. And it's generally believed the trigger mark was 70%, at which time, if it got above that point, then Apple would switch to a buy per wafer, sort of model. So I think some of this commentary that Apple was somehow getting a great deal or something, on the bin chips that, weren't functional enough to go into iPhone, I think was wrong and incorrect. And, I think also, this shows maybe another reason of why did Apple wait till now? Because, in semiconductor process, over time, your yield goes up. You get more experience. You know how to control all the variables and the literally hundreds of steps, of manufacturing these devices. So, I think, again, we're another point where we have the sweet spot where Apple clearly probably has enough yield, enough performance, low enough manufacturing cost that it can make these devices more affordable. I think some of the speculation that, Apple's going to have to change their configuration and prices and things, that may or may not happen, but I think that's maybe more driven by overall macroeconomic factors. So we'll have to see what happens. But I think that clearly we're seeing that Apple continues to be, by volume, a huge buyer of product from TSMC. Even though due to the hotness of demand for AI chips, NVIDIA's taken over or has overcome them in terms of being the biggest dollar customer. But for semiconductor fabs, dollars are great, but the thing that really allows you to optimize your manufacturing process, volume counts. So TSMC now has two really great darling customers on their hands. And, I think almost all the other semiconductor chips manufacturers, are in line behind the two twin brothers.
Hey, before we go on, Dave is going to cut out. He has a speaking engagement at a Mac user group tonight. So, Dave, thank you for being here. I want to make sure folks know where they can find you.
Thank you. Yeah, you can find me at InTouchWithIOS, InTouchWithIOS.com, and YouTube is youtube.com/InTouchWithIOS, as well as Blue Sky Mastodon at DaveG65. Have a great rest of your show.
Great.
Thank you.
Great. Tell them we said hello, Dave.
I will. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Ooh, now we can talk about him.
Dave said if anyone talks bad about him while he's gone, I have to suck him in the eye. I'll feel really bad doing it, just so you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mark, your analysis is always interesting. Is it possible that really Apple just got surprised by the popularity of this? I mean, because we're all attributing different things to the why of the Neo and the how of the Neo, and was it just to use up old chips? And all of a sudden, guess what? They've got a hit on their hands. Now they kind of have to figure out what to do with that.
That may very well be the case, because a couple of days ago I was having a chat with this guy who runs IT for public company, and he was saying that he's wondering why they're continuing to buy brand D or brand H PCs for their sales force. He said all the salespeople would love to have a Mac, and he says he conservatively figured they could save $350 to $450 per unit by going to the Neos. But when he starts to take a look at it, they have internal training and all sorts of these other issues. But the fact that it's available at that much lower price point, certainly has caught his attention. So I suspect that that's a lot of what's happening, especially since many of the stories are out there talking about how performant, that system is. And they're comparing them, badly to other higher performance Apple devices, but in a superior, better fashion to a lot of Windows devices. So yeah, I think they probably did get. I mean, didn't Tim Cook say that on the conference call? I don't think we need to speculate about it. It may be established fact.
Well, and one other thing, Marty, I want you in here, but I've, for some reason, in the last 4 or 5 months since CES, I've run into so many people who are using Windows machines at work, but that have a Mac at home, because they find out I'm an Apple person and they say, "Oh yeah, I have a Mac at home," and it's like, "So what do you have at the office?" "A Windows machine," and almost universally, they say, "I like the Mac better," but they have to use what the office says. Marty.
Yeah, I guess my only comment on is I don't think Apple entered this venture thinking, and what was the driving force that got them into making the Neo was not, hey, we've got all these bin chips lying around. Let's see if we can build a computer around it. I think they had full intent of building this computer. They used the bin chips, and they probably had contingency plans in case they ran out of chips too soon or too quickly. Mm-hmm. And the plan that apparently has played out is they're going back to ask for more or to build more, which was, if you followed those rumors, if you followed the stories over the last couple of weeks, like we did on the Neo Notebook, everybody was talking about, they're just going to jump to the A19s now. Once the bucket's empty, they're just going to jump to a faster.
By margin and profitability and economics, all that. No, they'll milk the A18 for a while until the A19 process gets to be equal or superior in terms of cost.
Yeah, but I think the talk, Mark, was certainly Apple's not going to go back and force themselves in line in front of all the other people at the chip maker to say, here's a big wad of cash. Let's make some more for us instead of the other people that have got their orders in already. A lot of people were saying that's never going to happen. So the only solution that they could propose was, hey, they're probably going to go on to the E19. They're going to release the Neo 2 sooner than they expected to, et cetera, et cetera. And it's turned out they're going to work with these 18s. So,
well, there are other ways that Apple in the past has thrown cash at this company to get preferential position. It's not necessarily. Sometimes it's pre-orders, but also they've made deposits against unknown stuff that can be used against orders. And the benefit to a company like TSMC is they've used it to purchase manufacturing equipment instead of having to go to the capital markets and take on debt and potentially weaken their own financial position. So Apple has been strategic about this. And do we all remember, when was it, back in 11, 12 or so, that Apple reportedly bought out 80% of the world's flash memory capacity? So there's a benefit of all the hundreds of millions of phones that they sell, and all these volumes of Mac. That's they're the biggest by volume, if not by dollar, semiconductor buyer on the planet.
Yep.
But it's still not good enough to help them with memory configurations. And I don't know if people paid attention to what's going on with the Mac Minis, and their memory configurations have been limited, and their lead times have just extended. I was talking to somebody, or I got a text earlier today, somebody looking at an M4 Ultra, and it had an 18-week lead time.
It's the world we live in right now. For lots of reasons. I wanted to bring this one up. It's the title is Yet Another Story of an iOS Update Silently Changing Settings. This is from Adam Angst on Tidbits. And in Adam's usual in-depth style, he goes through a problem that a friend of his had. And to boil it down, during an iOS update, iCloud Private Relay got turned on, and it had some unexpected, undesired consequences. I can't say I haven't tried to duplicate this, but I have noticed at times recently that it seems like more software updates from Apple and not even major updates, seem to have changed different settings on my Mac. Now, unfortunately, I have not really documented it because it's one of those things you think, maybe I did it accidentally. But it's happened enough now and this resonated with me. I'm curious if anybody else has seen anything like this or feels like that's happening. That's something that they usually have set for, on setting A and never change it. Suddenly goes to setting B.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Jeff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say, Jeff, your audio was tonight before the show was a perfect example.
Yeah. And the one that has bit me more than once is iCloud Photos, and I have that turned off. I do not want my photos managed through iCloud. And on more than one occasion, I have found that after an iOS update, my iPhone has switched to doing iCloud photo storage. And then you have to turn it off, and now your photo library is screwed up because you have the low-res versions on your phone and the high-res versions on iCloud, and you have to do a separate download to get your actual images back. And yeah.
Jeff, I hadn't thought about that because just today, because I do let iCloud manage my photos, but I've noticed that I take photos and they aren't always there. Take them on the phone and they're not there. And I'm talking like 3, 4, or 5 days later. They're not in my iCloud library yet. They eventually appear, but I hadn't even put 2 and 2 together on that.
So
Interesting.
Yeah. And there's other settings that I've discovered that have been changed without my express consent, like auto updates that gets turned on every now and then. I have to go and disable that. And it's not your imagination, Chuck.
Okay. Who else? Somebody else was saying they had the Mark. What have you seen?
I've seen a lot of times that when you do an update, some of the background activity usage is turned on when I explicitly turn things off to stop it there, just to extend battery life. And it seems that it's sometimes Apple apps, mostly Apple apps, sometimes other things. And they've gotten a little bit better, it seems, say maybe compared to 2 or more years ago. But it is a nuisance. I've seen, like Jeff said, definitely the the iPhotos backup, and that's a pain in the neck. And it's they should. I can understand that they're saying, well, in this case, we turned on private relay, it's better and safer, yada, 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 for all these reasons. Whether you want Apple to be your nanny and to protect you or not, at least, they should recognize that if somebody changed something from they should track default settings from, release to release. And if something is changed, they should realize, hey, that person changed it, whether it's very intentional or just by accident, they changed it. So Apple should either call it out, hey, we noticed this thing, and do you want to change this, and do you want to change it this other way because the benefits are pros and con analysis, whatever, or just be quiet and just recognize it's changed and not assume they know better than the owner of the device. But it is really annoying. I mean, I hate to say it, but they're getting as bad as Microsoft of making change for change's sake and just totally up the life of their user.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure I go with that one, but we will leave that for another discussion. Brian?
Yeah, I was going to mention when looking at the article, it mentions that the problem appeared for Anne when she updated to iOS 26.4.1. It's so specific, and I wonder, assuming that she didn't update from, what was prior to the years. It was 18, I think, was prior to 26, I think, in the naming schemes. I'm assuming she did an update from that to 26.4.1, and that it was just an incremental update. And that in particular is really frustrating, because I can see something where, if it was a major update, so when iOS 27 arrives and going from, 26.x to 27, you get that, I think is it Quick Tips, or I can't remember what it's called, where they kind of showcase all the features when you first update your phone to the new OS.
Oh, the guided tour sort of thing.
Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, I could see maybe if that was a change that they wanted to make, that's an appropriate time perhaps to say, hey, here's a change that we made, and it would be even better is to be able to have some sort of an accept or revert button maybe. But if it really did come out on a point release, and even in this, a point release, that's particularly frustrating.
Yeah, it's just something. So if you're seeing that, folks, maybe it's not just you, and maybe you need to do a little research, or just make sure that if something is not behaving the way it usually does, go back and check its setting. Marty, you want to relate that?
Yeah, when people catch these things, I'm always amazed that they catch these things, because I have this remarkable personal skill of not paying attention And so when changes happen and I open up the device and something's different, it's like, wow, it's something new. It's not like, hey, wait a minute. Because I'm just not paying attention.
Marty, I won't confess to not paying attention, but I do tend to be more accepting than a lot of people of some of these annoyances. It's just like, okay, it's not doing this. Hey, here's a workaround that I discovered just messing around, and all right, that's fine. I used to do it this way, now I do it that way. And other people will spend days, analyzing it and beating on it. And
That's me.
That's you, Jeff. Okay.
Yep.
And does it make you happy?
No.
Okay.
But in my defense, that when the change happens and I start digging and beating, I'm already unhappy because I'm having to dig and beat.
I think you're just looking for some consistency in your life, Jeff.
Aren't we all? I need stability, Marty.
Marty, Jeff will be booking time on the couch later. This is more informational, and frankly, just tonight on the way home, I heard that this has been resolved in some fashion. That a program or a service called Canvas, not Canva, but Canvas, that is big in the educational world, and Marty, Eric, and Brian can probably talk about this. My understanding is it's something that students use to communicate with professors and teachers, to take notes and do that kind of thing. And it was hacked and held for everybody's information was held for ransomware. Universities were postponing finals at best, canceling at worst. I believe it was Penn State here in my home state that canceled finals because of this, because the students could not get access to their notes. Now, allegedly, it has been resolved, but there's no information available on what was given up or how much was given up to get it unhacked. So I pointed out only as a matter of interest that if you think you're invincible, if you think you're not potentially affected by this, you're wrong. It's just a matter of when. But Marty, Eric, Brian, any comments or any personal experience with this?
For me, our educational school, we don't use any Canvas products directly, but I have, for college, and you rely on it extremely. It's where all the links for different websites and curriculum and discussion boards and ability to submit assignments. It's a pretty big deal. I was looking on that particular link from the show notes, and it does bring up the down detector, which is a pretty useful tool to see, to kind of get a feel of how a company's doing it. It's a good thing to tell, like, is it a me problem or is it an everybody problem? I think is a good way to also think about it. And in the picture in the article, it looked like it was a lot sharper of issues being reported, and it looks like now over the past 24 hours of this recording, they're a lot lower. Still, pinging, but a lot lower than it was.
Yeah, I didn't have a chance to look and see exactly, but again, as far as I know, there were no specifics on what had been done to resolve the matter, whether there'd been a ransom paid or whether the hackers, got a little bit concerned with the amount of publicity they were getting or what. But
yeah, it shut down at my institution for about 36 hours, if I can put it in my head. And the fact that you had mentioned Penn State kind of canceled finals, that's kind of determined on whether or not how many classes are actually doing finals online. Because, we had, what has happened, at least at my institution, was you typically have to get your grades in by today at noon. They pushed it off until tomorrow at noon, given that we couldn't use the system to get to what our student grades were on different assignments, because they told us not to go in, and certainly not to, if you're in, not to do anything funky with it if you could get in. I was too busy with the wedding to even bother looking at Canvas for those 3 days or however it went. But now that it's back up, I'm got to get grades in and I've got extra time to do it. But yeah, there were reports. My daughter works at a couple of institutions teaching, and she said it was down at both institutions. And one institution put out an email saying, if you want to consider a different way of doing a final than doing it through the Canvas testing system, you could go ahead and do that. Let your students know you're going to do something different. And I do all of my exams in person. I don't do them online. So it wouldn't have interrupted, even if it happened during finals week for me.
Let's see, who is this? Marty, you and Jeff? No, Brian. Brian and Jeff put in some links that I just threw into these into the chat about the agreement that appears to have been reached. So, Eric, you said your institution was having some issues too?
Yeah, because it was the end of the semester. So to do grades, like if you happen to have downloaded your grade books, you had all of the historical information, you could kind of make it work. But there were a lot of people that, for various reasons, like, they had some other commitment, and so they were a little slow to finish their grades. All of a sudden, everything was gone. Or if there was a final, the materials, the review information, that was all there. Not for every class, but if you had a couple of sections where somebody didn't finish the grades, then none of the grades could be done because you needed it for the entire section. So grades is probably the biggest impact, and in some cases just trying to get ready for an exam, but not being able to complete the grades was a huge issue, especially since right after classes ended, there are a lot of people that are traveling, going overseas, so it's a little more complicated.
Yeah. Quoting from one of the articles that Brian posted, now a deal has been reached between the business and the hackers. The hackers saying the data will be erased, but cybersecurity experts say if it really will be is uncertain. So,
okay. Another element that plays into that is even if the people that stole the data delete what they have, it's probably other places already as well. So they can control the copy that they have, but they can't control the copies that they distributed to other places or sold or traded or whatever. Also, there are people that broke into your computer systems and stole your stuff. How trustworthy are they?
Yeah. There is that. There is the honor among thieves question. I don't know. Hey, Jim Ray has arrived fashionably late. Jim, good to see you. Glad you made it.
Glad to be here.
I understand you were enjoying some time at the car dealer.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it didn't cost you any money, right, Jim?
It was warranty, so just time.
Oh, good. Okay, well, that's good. That's good. I think this may have been at last week, but I thought this was a nice write-up from Mac Rumors on how to stop Chrome browser from downloading a hidden 4 gigabyte AI file. This is one of the reasons that yes, I use Chrome, but only under duress, because again, based on the article and some other things I've read, this 4 gigabyte file was an AI file that had to do something with an LLM that runs in and makes recommendations and does some other things that allegedly enhance the Chrome experience. And so if you don't want an extra 4 gigs taken up on your machine, which would seem to be something that is a major consideration for something like a Neo, then maybe you want to go and find this thing and delete it. Did anybody bother to do this yet?
Nope.
Okay.
I don't use Chrome in that way. So, although on my my studio, I use Chrome, for some other things, but I don't use that particular feature. So I suppose I should go in and check to see if there's some slop and junk in there.
Oh, it's supposed to install even if you don't use any of the features.
Yeah.
So there's a good chance there's a 4 gig file sitting on your drive.
I could do that, but also I tend to lock down Google Updater not to run once I install Chrome, and it's only if I hit something that is not working on that version of Chrome, and this is like every 6 or 9 months, just because I don't want Google Updater going out, a couple times a day and downloading all sorts of crap that I don't know about and don't want. So I may have a higher guard wall than most people, but between now and next week I'll check to see if I have it.
I'm looking forward to hearing what you discover. If I were a betting person, I would bet you will find that file.
Well, you guys keep talking, and let me go do a little bit of stuff here.
All right, good. Well, now we have a live report from Mark Vuccio.
Yeah. I would say if it's not there, it would probably be because you're still running a version of Chrome that's multiple updates behind.
Jeff, that's the nicest thing you've ever said to me.
Well, I just call him like I see him, Mark.
Okay, I'm opening the terminal now, and I'm going to go to that.
While Mark's looking, I kind of thought this was a riot. Since we're talking about Chrome, Google is accused of copying Apple's liquid glass look. Android head denies it. This is worth the reading it just for the lulz. I mean, because you look at the pictures and you can't help but say, how could you not see the resemblance here? No matter how you feel about liquid glass, it just seems awfully coincidental that Google would just happen, yeah, I said that right. Google would just happen to make some of these changes to Android right now as liquid glass has been kind of under the microscope. So take it for what it's worth.
Well, it's obviously liquid plastic. So I think
yeah. And Jeff, you want to, I love that comment.
Okay. Of all the things Google could copy out of what Apple's doing with their operating systems right now, they choose liquid glass. There's so many other things they could have gone with, but okay.
Yeah. And again, whether you like liquid glass or not, but Apple still, so many of these companies still mimic Apple in the hopes that people are confused enough to buy the product.
They always steal all Apple's good and bad ideas, like having courage to remove headphone jacks. Everybody else did the same thing a year later.
Well, it took them 12 more months to find the courage.
Exactly, and that's where we are. It's 12 months later, liquid glass. So they're right on time.
Jim, I have a new hypothesis based on what you just said. They're trying to do it in real time with Apple, but they're still using Internet Explorer as their primary web browser. So it takes about a year before everything loads.
That would explain a few things.
There's a problem with that theory.
Oh, there are so many problems with that theory. We need to pack a lunch to start going through those.
Is a web browser vendor.
Yes.
So what you're saying is they're not using Chrome. They're their own product. They're using Internet Explorer.
So that's part of the joke in the hypothesis.
IE6, right?
Of course.
Oh my God.
No, I don't. It's not on my MacBook Air. So
interesting.
Excellent.
Okay. Yeah. Digg is back again. We've talked about this a couple times. We talked about it when they came back. We talked about it when they shut down again. Now they're back, but this time as an AI news aggregator. which is an interesting approach to, remain current and maybe not be quite such a magnet for junk. Or it could be a bigger magnet. I'm not sure. I'm anxious to see how this works out. Are you leaving, Mark, or is that you have a
Oh,
comment?
no, I have a comment.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Kata. I think this is genius. I think this is certainly an area of extreme interest, and the only thing I think they could do to get more is add hantavirus.
Okay. Jeff, you have a thought?
I do. Okay, so what they're doing here, they're starting with AI. And to be clear, they're aggregating news articles about the topic of artificial intelligence. They're not collecting obviously AI generated articles or creating their own AI content about articles. So starting with AI makes sense because it is a hot topic right now. And like Mark just said, hantavirus, well, that would be another thing to get going. But they're planning on over time expanding this out to include more topics. The place where I see a problem for them is the execution of this, because they're using a single source to find the articles that they're putting into here, and that's X. So, okay, I could see using multiple social media platforms to see what's trending, but then using other elements, which would probably involve them having to craft their own algorithms to find the types of content that they want to include, which would probably be a good idea. But anyhow, just relying on X as their sole source of data for the content they're showing, that concerns me. That I don't think that's going to go well for them.
Jeff, could this be just a matter of them just getting off the ground with this now and maybe either realizing that or just getting around to tapping into other sources?
Maybe it's from the stuff that I've read, it sounds like getting off the ground is the focus on AI related news for now. But it sure looks like the backbone that they've created for this this news presentation service is based completely on data from X.
Yeah, I'm anxious to monitor it for a little while and see, because it seems like there's so much AI information out there that is being handled by with no disrespect intended, the more mainstream sites. But not all of them are going into depth. So trying to balance that out of keeping your awareness of what's happening in the AI world versus digging into it is, I think this has the potential to be useful for the latter. We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. Let's see. Oh, we had an update. Marty, you found something?
Yeah, I found something just simply by going into the library and searching for weights bin, which is the file in question. And although the article talks about 4 gigabyte, when I found weights bin, it was 120 megabytes in size. But now I'm looking, I probably need to go to another option here, which I'm looking for. And I do not even see this in,
Yeah, I checked. I don't even have that file. So where is it on your system, Marty?
It is when I just searched the library, let me go back to that. I don't necessarily want to take up airtime on this, but on this Mac, name contains weights bin. And now I'm not finding it. Well, when I first found it, it was, I just did a search and it came up as weights bin. but
Maybe
it
it's
says it's on a folder, opt guide on device model, and I couldn't find it in there either. I couldn't find that folder in default, which was
earlier. Barry in the chat room had said that ops guide on device model is not on his Mac. So, more news. Last thing for the evening. Energizer releases coin lithium batteries that won't cause burning if accidentally swallowed. Good.
Yeah, good.
I'm delighted to hear this. This is good news.
Delicious.
Yeah.
Yeah. I this bothered me because I thought, well, what are college kids going to swallow now? If they can't swallow lithium batteries anymore.
They're going to have to go back to Tide Pods.
Yeah. So, of course, I had to do a search on it to find out what college kids swallowed. In the 20s and 30s, it was goldfish, which was pretty common. Then raw eggs in the 60s and 70s, and live insects. Goldfish.
Now, why is the show called MacVoices?
Yeah,
I don't know. I really don't know. The Tide Pod Challenge was in the 2010s. But now that batteries are safe to swallow, what are we going to swallow?
I'd forgotten all about the whole goldfish thing. That was only something that I saw.
Because you're not that old, Chuck.
Well, I did. I am of an age where that was a popular thing. Characterizing a college kids' craziness in movies. So why anybody thought that was a good idea, I don't know. But apparently somebody did.
Nutmeg challenge, I guess, in the 2020s. All sorts of things that you can harm yourself. Cinnamon challenge in the 2000s.
The cinnamon challenge.
The saltine challenge, which I thought was pretty cool. 6 crackers in 60 seconds, no water.
Easy. 6 crackers, 60 seconds.
In 60 seconds, no water.
Easy.
Okay, we're going to do a special with Mark
next week.
We're going to live stream this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Exactly.
One inhalation, and he's kicked the bucket.
What, Brian? What?
I was reading in the article that in addition to tasting badly, I guess it contains a dye that will color a child's mouth blue if it comes in contact with saliva. I was just thinking back, there was that scene in the Pee-wee's Big Adventure movie where he gives the fake gum and he has all the, looks like slime coming out of his mouth.
Okay. Okay. Well, in the chat, Barry says Mark has very active saliva glands. More than we needed to know.
Thank you, Barry.
Guys, thank you. I think we got through almost everything. I think we may have skipped one or two, but that's fine. I want to make sure we let folks know where they can find you when you're not here concocting new challenges. I'm a little worried. Jeff hasn't come up with an original one yet, but I can see him thinking.
I'm saving it for after dark.
Well, that's true too. So sort of going with the order we had, but missing one person, but adding one at the end. Marty Gensius, thank you so much. Glad you survived the wedding. Where can folks find you?
A bunch of shows. Usually Dave rattles them off before I get to them. We have the Neo Notebook on Sunday nights, Vision Profiles on Monday nights, here with you, Chuck, and this great group on Tuesdays, Dave's show In Touch with iOS on Thursdays, and then the British Tech Network and the Mac Show on Friday mornings. Bunch of other shows that I do, movie shows and things like that. You can find it all at thepodtalk.net. That's the website that has the links to the different shows that I do. And you can find me at Gensius, Jencius on any of the socials. Thanks, Chuck.
Thanks so much, Marty. Thank you. Eric Bolden, thank you for being here. Glad you survived the train. we'll be seeing more of that, I hope, in the future. But meanwhile, where can folks find you?
I'll be out training for it. Sorry. Apologies.
No, you're not. No, you're not.
I can be found on Mastodon at EA Bolden at mas.tl. Please send me words of encouragement. Sunday nights on the Neo Notebook. Mondays on Vision Profiles. Tuesdays, of course, here on MacVoices Live. And Thursdays, finishing off the week with In Touch with iOS.
Great. Thank you so much, Eric. Brian Flanagan Arthurs, again, I'm so glad you made it, that other commitments didn't take precedence, like that Ginsburg guy who cut out on us. Where can folks find you?
I appreciate it. Thank you, as always, for having me. It's always a pleasure being here and seeing everybody. Best place to catch up with me is on my website, brian8944.com. If you have any questions or comments, please reach out, and there's a comment box there. And if you have an opportunity, I always appreciate it if people check out my podcast, On the Desk of Brian. As of this recording, episode 27 is set to release on Thursday.
Terrific. 27 already. Wow. Good job. Good job.
Thank you.
Jeff Gamet, thank you for being here as always. I'm still waiting for you to concoct your challenge, and I'm still concerned about it.
I already have the challenge, but I'll save it for after dark.
Oh, boy.
And I'm saving it for after dark because I don't want people to actually try it. I don't want most people to actually try it.
So does that imply that nobody listens to After Dark, Jeff?
What it implies is that the potential adult nature of After Dark draws a specific type of crowd that is more likely to appreciate the comedy or satire value in some of the things that I say, and less likely to take it as something they should actually do. And as I'm saying this, I realize I'm digging a hole I can't get out of, because the implication is that everyone that's listening right now would do the bad thing. That's not what I mean. And I know I can't dig myself out of the hole. So instead, how about if I say, when I'm not digging myself into holes that I simply cannot get out of, I'm on social media, where actually I probably am digging myself into other holes. Jay Gamet on most of the platforms, active mostly on Mastodon, Instagram, and not Instagram. What's the other one? Pixelfed, and Blue Sky. Although I have started looking for messages in Instagram, because apparently people are sending me messages there. Sorry if I haven't responded. I didn't know. Then for shows here on MacVoices Live on Tuesdays, Thursdays on Dave Ginsburg's In Touch with iOS, then for the British Tech Network, The Big Show and The Mac Show. Brian Chaffin and I do The Context Machine. We have a newsletter now and merch. So go to contextmachine.io so you can check it out. And then Patrice Brendamore and I do Retro Rewatch, and also I have revived Fresh Brew Tales. So more coffee shop stories coming out, true stories. And I found all of my old tech most of my old tech blog posts. So I have brought those back, and jeffgamet.com is a thing now too.
Great. Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it. Mark Fuccio, thank you for being here tonight, you with all your questions. Where can folks connect with you?
Easiest is X at MARKFUCCIO.
Short, sweet, to the point. Thank you, Mark. Last but not least, Jim Ray, I'm glad you got here for at least a little bit of the fun. What's the best way for folks to find you when you're not hanging out at the dealership?
I was just going to say, I'll be out on the street waiting for the tow truck.
Well, that's one way.
So if you're bringing a tow truck, come on down.
Perfect.
Other than that, I don't want to talk to you. But, I was just realizing, Chuck, you never tell us how to connect with you.
That's a fair point. That's a fair point.
I thought that was by design.
Yeah, well, I'm on all the socials as at Chuck Joyner. That's the way you can find me. Honestly, the best way to get in touch with me is the contact form on the MacVoices website. because that gets tagged as coming from the contact form, and so never gets intercepted by any of the spam filters or the other things. Because once in a while I find emails hanging out in there that have been there for, days, weeks, maybe longer. And I feel bad then about having not responded. So yeah, thank you, Jim. Yeah, the best place is the contact form. But thank you for being here, Jim. Good to have you. With that, this is MacVoices Live. We do this every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern at youtube.com/MacVoicesTV. And if you can't make it, don't worry. The edited shows end up in the feeds so you can enjoy them as well. Until the next time, and as always, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.